This is Money, Motivation, and Mike, and I am your host, Michael Wainwright, in charge of the mothership, audio engineer, video engineer, engineer in general, Jason Wright. And hello to you, world. This is the show that will change your life. You can contact us at info@mx3.vip and find all of our content at mx3.vip or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@mx3podcast. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the icon bell to get notified of all of our new content, which usually comes out around 9 o'clock on Monday morning. Jason, before we get into today's topic, today's episode, which is the Super Bowl halftime show, some good and some not so good. As we mentioned in last week's episode, we have reached some milestones with viewers and listeners. And this week, Jason went and zeroed in and got some statistics that really are intriguing. And I want to share a little bit of that with you, because obviously we want to do a handout to each one of you and say once again, thank you. Now, with the lack of life in Antarctica, we are in the other 6 continents in this world: North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, and Australia, which I believe that area down there is also called, which includes New Zealand and thousands of islands, Oceania. I think that's how you say it. I always call it the Australia. That's what we know as the continent, but that area down there is called another name, and I believe it's Oceania. Oceania?
I believe that's right.
Oceania. Okay. Now, another thing here, and this is with our podcast and our listeners, and then we'll get over to the YouTube numbers. You know, our United States listeners continues to go down percentage-wise, which I believe is a good thing, because 100% of our listeners are no longer in the United States, obviously with 6 continents of record, which is monumental to me. The United States still leads the way with 96% of our listening audience at 250,000 listeners. The United Kingdom comes in at number 2. Bangladesh, number 3. The Dominican Republic is number 4, and Brazil is number 5 with our listening audience. And as we've talked about over the course of the last year, we have a presence on the West Coast, and Seattle, Washington is still the city that leads the way of Money, Motivation, and Mike listeners. At 11% of our domestic United States listeners come from Seattle, Washington, which I think is incredible. Other big cities, New York comes in at number 3. Anchorage, Alaska comes in at 6. And Honolulu, Hawaii comes in at 7. So we got some things out in the water going on as well. And number 10, how about that? Number 9, Chicago, Illinois. Number 10, Montgomery, Alabama. Do some research on that and see why the listeners in Montgomery, Alabama love Money, Motivation, and Mike so much, Jason. Very, very, very good stuff. Over on our YouTube channel, believe it or not, and of course, this just shows you the power of YouTube with the worldwide viewing of YouTube and so many people going to YouTube to find their knowledge, their information, their entertainment, shows like this, whatever the case may be. Peru is the number 1 country that listens and watches our YouTube channel on a regular basis. And they are double Argentina, which comes in second. We have to go all the way down to 8th place to find the United States of America with watching our YouTube channel. Now, is that good? Is it not so good? What do you think, Jason?
It's interesting anyway.
I believe that our international presence is making a presence.
Yeah.
That's very intriguing to me. Mexico comes in at 3. Brazil comes in at 4. Pakistan, 7. Incredible. Lima, Peru is the number 1 international city listening to Money, Motivation, and Mike. 32,945 views out of Lima, Peru.
Incredible.
Yes, it is. The first 3 cities internationally is from Peru. You have to go to number 4 before you get out of Peru. Very, very intriguing. And the viewing audience, and I believe this number here, I mean, it goes the length of a page. It's got to be every bit of 30 cities around the world. There's not one city in the United States that ranks in the top 30 of viewing audience of YouTube. YouTube.com/@MX3 podcasts, Money, Motivation, and Mike. The number 1 state in the United States that watches our show is Texas. And Texas by about 3 times as many as Florida. Florida comes in second. Michigan comes in third. Indiana 4th. And Pennsylvania 5th. All intriguing numbers. Once again, continuing to say thank you. I do want to point out, we do have a very, very good presence in South America. As I said, Lima, Peru, Panama City comes in at 6, and Mexico City comes in at 8. All good stuff. And there are several other cities in both of those countries that we have a pretty good large presence in. And I'm not just talking about a couple of viewers and listeners. I'm talking about thousands of viewers and listeners. So we continue to grow there. I don't remember what our subscriber list was on YouTube last week, but as of today, it's 2,330. And once again, thank you very much, and continuing to support our show and support our show in a big time way. Okay. Getting into today's topic, today's episode, here on the end and the foothills of the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl halftime show. And as we know, football fans, and you may not realize, football fans, that a lot of people tune in to go to Super Bowl parties, and they do that for several reasons: to eat and to drink, and then watch the halftime show. A person can go all year and not watch one football game. A person can go all year and not know who are the favorites to go to the Super Bowl. A person can walk into a Super Bowl party, not even knowing who's playing, and start watching pregame 2 hours before kickoff because it's the Super Bowl. Now, this year, as always, every year, it's about commercials. It's about halftime. There's no doubt about it. As much as I'm not going to say, I hate to admit it, but the Taylor Swift factor is there. What I do wish, I'm going to say, in the gathering where I was watching the party. Well, as a matter of fact, Jason, you and I were watching it together. Mm-hmm. They really didn't show her much till the second half, and then when Kansas City started coming back and getting scoring and kind of taking control of the game, we started seeing her. Now, why, when her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, goes over and virtually bumps into and almost knocks down his coach, Andy Reid, why didn't they show her reaction to that? Why didn't they show her reaction to when the 49ers score? Why does it always have to be peaches and cream? See both sides of the story. Nevertheless, I mean, if you're going to get all of the action, if you're going to come it with us and show her that many times, let's see some agony of defeat too, because that's what you're going to do when a cornerback gets burnt. That's what you're going to do when a player fumbles the ball, drops a pass. You're going to show their reaction. So if you're going to throw her in us, let's see all of it. But as NFL has said, and we've talked about on this show, they are not responsible for what the networks put on the air. And the networks pay gazillions of dollars to be able to do that. So obviously they're not going to say anything of the such. Now, over the years and on to the halftime show, and I have not totally looked into the reviews of what Usher received. And I was not too excited about the halftime show. And I didn't take that approach or that view when the halftime show started. I wanted to listen. I wanted to be entertained. I wanted to see what was going on. I don't know much about Usher, so the music was probably not part of my genre. But nevertheless, I mean, he's only 10 years younger than me, somewhere in there. So it's not too far off. But we're going to show a clip here in a minute. And this is when I definitely got up and during the halftime show to go to the restroom and find another chip and dip for sure. But remember this, going all the way back, the halftime show in the early years, and I'm going to go through some of these halftime shows, and then we're going to talk about the top all-time halftime shows. But back in the early days, when it was called the NFL AFL Championship, and then later renamed the Super Bowls 1 through 4, you're talking about college bands and Andy Williams and Up With People and those kind of things. In the 1992 season and the 1993 Super Bowl featured, and at this time they're in Pasadena, California, and of course our Dallas Cowboys were there. I shouldn't say of course. The first 30 years, there was a big shot of them being there. Michael Jackson performed at Pasadena, California, right down the street from Hollywood, and Michael Jackson obviously wowed the crowd with must-see TV. And from that time through today, the halftime show has been just a mecca. It's been a concert, a short version of a concert. It's been the who's who of music and entertainers, etc. I think you know what I mean. But nevertheless, Michael Jackson got that off and running with his performance in the 1993 Super Bowl 27 in Pasadena, California. Now, for those of you, I'm fixing to go through some dates here in just a minute, but for those of you who think about that, let's make sure that we're clear on. Football is the only sport. I know golf starts in August and ends in August for their physical year, but football is the only major sport, and I know golf's a major sport too, so I know I'm saying that wrong. Football is the only sport that starts in one year and ends in another. So most of your season, well, actually all of the season is now in 1 year, and then the playoffs, especially the Super Bowl, is played in another year. So when I'm talking about 1993, that's actually the 92 season. When you're talking about 1985, it's actually the 84 season. And it's been that way since Super Bowl I, because they did play the Super Bowl AFL Championship in the next year. So let me give you a little update here on Usher and what is the business model behind the NFL Super Bowl halftime show. Because just like Usher did this show for free. There was obviously a lot of work, a lot of talent, a lot of rehearsals that went in to, 15 minutes of fame there. And it doesn't hurt. And here's the business model behind that. Usher specifically, and this is through the knowledge and information that has been obtained, Usher specifically timed the release of his new album and his new concert tour that's going around this year. He specifically timed this with launching at the Super Bowl halftime show. So there's a lot of business because now, I've never had on my radar to go to an Usher show, and I would bet a whole lot of money that I probably won't go to one in 2024. But there are a lot of acts that I have been introduced to, such as the Taylor Swifts, that I would go to a concert if I so chose to enjoy that music. I struggle with that. Now, here is the reason I got up and went to the restroom about halfway through this show. And I just cannot believe where we are. I cannot believe that the NFL takes this approach. So I'm fixing to show you a clip. It's in the middle of Usher's halftime performance. What is it, Jason? Okay. So here we go. His halftime performance was 13 minutes and 20 seconds. He is now 7 minutes and 41 seconds into his halftime show. He's got on a solid white uniform. It's pretty sparkly at the top. Let's roll this, Jason.
You ready, but you don't really know. And everything in your past, you wanna let it go out in there. Turn it.
Okay, I'm okay so far. Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. Here it goes. For the listening audience, he just threw off his jacket and he just pulled off his shirt. And now we have a shirtless Usher. Now, I've seen enough, Jason. Could you turn that off? Two things that I do appreciate. He had on the one glove, which obviously is Michael Jackson started all that, and he's moonwalking. Wouldn't you have loved to seen that? He's moonwalking, and what are people doing? Looking at his chest. So why don't you stand there? Because I'm not watching the moonwalking. I picked it up just now. I didn't even realize he moonwalked because maybe I was looking for the exit door anyway. Why do we have to yank off our clothes in, well, this year's Super Bowl? This year's Super Bowl was the most watched program in the history of the TV. Why do we have to take off our clothes? And I know we didn't take them all off. And there's a lot of men who run around without shirts on, but they typically don't do that in the general public. It's usually at a swim pool or a beach. But when he did that, I was gone. So if he did the greatest thing ever in the last 6 minutes of that video, 5 minutes of that video, I missed it. And when I came back into the room, I didn't get any vibe from anybody that I'd missed anything. So here's a little bit. I'm gonna do two things here. I'm gonna talk about some of the acts that we've had over the last 58 years, and then they have ranked. CBS in this particular article has ranked the top, I believe 30. Well, going all the way back to 1993. So 31, 32 shows that we've had since the new era of halftime has been brought on by the NFL, starting with that Michael Jackson performance back in January of 93. The very first Super Bowl, NFL AFL Championship number 1, Super Bowl number 1, performed by the University of Arizona and Grambling State marching bands. That's who it was. Now, they always typically try to do something from a local fashion. For example, when they went to Detroit, they tried to do Motown, things like that. When you're down in Miami, you're trying to do something with whatever bands. The Florida A&M band comes to mind because it was Super Bowl III, the Joe Namath Super Bowl. But University of Arizona and Grambling State, which is located in Louisiana, end up at Super Bowl I at the LA Coliseum in Los Angeles, California. Interesting. And then the next year, Grambling State gets invited back again. Grambling State performed at the first 2 Super Bowl halftime shows. And then in 69, Super Bowl III, Florida A&M University band. So the first 3 years of the Super Bowl were bands, college bands. We have to get to 1970, Super Bowl IV, NFL Championship number 4, to get Carol Channing, who was a movie star. Carol Channing is the first one to hit the big scene. And in 1971, back to Super Bowl V, we're back to Florida A&M band, which is intriguing. And I don't know a whole lot about the Florida A&M band. They might be considered one of the best university bands in the world. But nevertheless, in the first 5 Super Bowls, Florida A&M had already made 2 appearances, and Grambling State had already made 2 appearances. Interesting. So we finally go to Super Bowl VI. Oh, by the way, that was the Cowboys' first Super Bowl win in New Orleans in Tulane Stadium. So here we go. We're going to New Orleans. So we've got a salute to Louis Armstrong with Ella Fitzgerald. Once again, Carol Channing making another appearance. And the U.S. Marine Corps drill team. The next year, Happiness Is, the University of Michigan band, and Woody Herman. 1974, which would have been Super Bowl IX, the University of Texas marching band by themselves. Okay, we come to 1975, and guess who's back in it? Grambling State marching band. So in your first 9 Super Bowls, Grambling State made 3 appearances. They're going a third of the time. I find that not only interesting, but very entertaining. Okay, so doesn't say in 1976, which is the 200th anniversary, or 200th birthday of the United States of America. It's also Super Bowl X. The Steelers beat the Cowboys. Didn't want to mention that. 200 years and just a baby. Tribute to America's bicentennial. All right. 77, Small World. we have to continue on here. Let's see. 1981, that would have been New Orleans, a Mardi Gras festival. 1985, Award of Children's Dreams. 1987, Salute to Hollywood's 100th anniversary. The Rockettes actually made an appearance in 1988 with Chubby Checker. So, continuing on here to 1993, which was Michael Jackson and 3,500 local children, which I think was pretty neat. And then if you remember, they did the audience card stunt at the end where they covered the whole audience with cards. You couldn't see the audience, and it made, I believe it was little people that it made, and I can't remember exactly what it was. So now this is funny. Super Bowl 28, that I was fortunate enough to get to attend, and believe it or not, I won a lottery that allowed me to buy a Super Bowl ticket for face value. It was $175 in Super Bowl 28. So twice that. I know we're in 58, but twice that, 56, 57, 58. And I don't think you could have got in the door for less than $5,000, $6,000 here for Super Bowl 58. So this is funny. The actual halftime show that I was able to see back in January of 1994 in Atlanta, Georgia, was called Rockin' Country Sunday, featuring Clint Black, Tanya Tucker, Travis Trent, Winona, and Naomi Judd with a flashlight stunt. They gave you flashlights when you came through the door so that you could shine them. I still have that flashlight if you want it, Jason. I didn't realize. Well, I'm going to find that flashlight and stick it here on the table for future. Frito-Lay sponsored that flashlight. I remember that. It was yellow. So all these great, wonderful acts, and nothing against country and Western music, but most people know I'm not much on rocking to the country on a Sunday afternoon. I get to see Black, Travis, Tucker, and the Judd sister. Judds. They're not Judd sisters, mom and daughter. And by the way, since Michael Jackson started over the last 32 years, that's the ones that the CBS has ranked. Guess what was in last place for Super Bowl halftime shows?
Tell me.
The one I just talked about. Country and Western.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah, I've got that going for me. I have personally attended and viewed the worst halftime show in the history of the Super Bowl. We should have brought Grambling State back. Well, nevertheless, Dallas Cowboys won. So, forever forgiven. Moving on here, I like that this was in 2000, Phil Collins, Christina Aguilera, Enrique Iglesias, and Tony Braxton, and an 80-person choir. Here's you some other good ones that now this is interesting. In 2002, U2, 2003, Shania Twain. All right, but they wouldn't go just totally country then after the bomb that I got to witness in January of 94. Shania Twain, No Doubt, and Sting. Good stuff. And 2004, Janet Jackson, Kid Rock, P. Diddy, Nelly, and Justin Timberlake. Also, Justin Timberlake was a part of NSYNC. And then back in 2001, 3 years before that, they did the Kings of Rock and Pop featuring Aerosmith, NSYNC, Britney Spears, Mary J. Blige, and Nelly. So Timberlake as a member of NSYNC, and then him as an individual 3 years later had got to do it twice in 4 years. 2005, Paul McCartney. 2006, the Rolling Stones. Prince, and I'll come back to that. Now, here's what's interesting, and about Prince. In 2007, Prince and the Florida A&M Marching Band, back from the dead of the 1960s. Florida A&M makes an appearance again 30 years later, 87, 97, 2007, 30 years later. They're making, actually 40 years later, they're making an appearance again. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers in 2008, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, 2009, The Who, 2010 was The Who, 2011, Black Eyed Peas, and Usher. this year's performance. I wonder in 2011, Jason, you need to do this research. Did Usher take his shirt off in 2011?
Good question.
Yeah. Slash was also there as well. Slash from Guns N' Roses. 2012, Madonna. 13, Beyonce. Beyonce. 14, Bruno Mars, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Now, let's go right here to these last 5. In 2020, Shakira, J-Lo, Bad Bunny, Emmy Munoz. This is also funny. In 2021, and I've never heard of this group, The Weeknd. Have you ever heard of The Weeknd?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, as it's not really a joke, it's real. As the son's telling the mother, I can't wait for the weekend. She goes, yeah, so we can watch the Super Bowl? No, because I want to watch The Weeknd. And The Weeknd's performing at the Super Bowl. Mom never got it. So, nevertheless, The Weeknd performed in 2021. In 2022, Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Mary J. Blige again. You know, she's now made a couple of appearances. And last year was Rihanna. And then this year was Usher with special guest. I know, let's see, Alicia Keys, wasn't she one of them?
This Super Bowl she was.
Yes. So there it is in its 58 years of entirety of the Super Bowl. And basically the headlines, and I hit most of them, which obviously just became an incredible thing over the years. Now,
I don't see anything regarding topless dancing in 2011 by Usher.
Okay, well, maybe they should have replayed the 2011 halftime show. I want you to think about this. You see, you've got me back going again and kind of press my button here. The majority of the audience, and I know there's more females tuning into football games than ever, but still the majority of the audience are males. Now, why you as the NFL thinks that males want to watch another male on TV take his clothes off is mind-boggling to me. I don't understand. Hey, mate, Jason, you work on getting Usher on the show. And we'll just get Usher right in here, and I want to talk to him how he came up with this act and who did the choreography. Who at NFL told him he could take his clothes off? We want to know that too.
The question is would men tune in regardless?
Men are going to tune in regardless.
So are they gaining more audience by having Usher do what he did?
Listen, I don't want you to go down that road. Let's just go with my idea that it's not a good thing.
Understand.
But remember, since my name is in the title of the show, we're going to go with mine. You probably have a good point. Unfortunately, you're being vetoed at this moment. And I know that it's just like this Taylor Swift deal, and how many hundreds of times has she's been shown she's been shown more than dadgum players has been shown. You know, receivers got to catch a ball. A secondary guy's got to make a play.
I think Taylor Swift should be getting a check from the NFL.
Yeah, you're probably right. There's no doubt about it. She definitely has brought some more fans to the game. I know there's been fans that show up at Kansas City Chief games to not go watch the Chiefs, but to figure out kind of where she's going to be setting and be close to her suite. So I guess they can sit there and look at her, maybe get a wink, maybe get she waves at them. I don't know. I mean, I think that someone, I don't know if they pressed charges or they were just had letters written from the attorneys for these people who are tracking her airplane, trying to see where she's at. I mean, this is crazy. It's just like when they went up and played Buffalo in the playoff game. There were people at the airport in the snow trying to see Taylor Swift landing at the airport. Didn't care that Buffalo and Kansas City's playing each other.
Right.
They were there to see her, and they were there back late that night in the dark. Who knows, 10, 20 degrees, big snow on the ground, trying to get a Taylor Swift viewing. I don't know, maybe she walked over and signed some autographs. Everybody has a degree that they're willing to pay to get whatever it is they want. So good for them. Now, this is very disappointing. I told you the worst the worst NFL Super Bowl show in the history was 1994 with that Country and Western act.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The second worst was Phil Collins, Christina Aguilera, Enrique Iglesias, and Tony Braxton in 2000. That's surprising to me.
It is surprising.
Yeah, and coming in at number 30. So there was 32. Starting at Michael Jackson, there's 32. But coming in 30 was Maroon 5. I thought they were pretty popular as well, and that was in 2019. Not going to go through all these, but this is very disappointing. The Rolling Stones come in at number 29 in 2006. I told you about Motown, and this is the reason there was a lot of people very disappointed and upset that the Super Bowl in 2006 was in Detroit, Michigan. Motown's a big deal, and they had the Rolling Stones there. That probably didn't make a whole lot of sense, and that might be why they're ranked 29th on this list. How could you have Stevie Wonder? This is number 27 from 1999. Gloria Estefan and Stevie Wonder coming in that low. And in 2018, Justin Timberlake comes in at 26. Surprising there. Here you go. Back to Shania Twain. 2003, they come in at 24. Tom Petty in 23. Paul McCartney in 22. I guess they're just trying to hurt my feelings. I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Bruno Mars. They come in at 21. YouTube, 20. I think that they did this poll and they just went out, and it appears to me that a bunch of younger generation did the voting on this poll. Springsteen, 18. I've got a really surprising one coming here to you in just a minute. Rihanna, she's 15. That was 2023 last year. Here's your boy, Usher, that did not take his clothes off in 2011. Slash and Black Eyed Peas. They come in the 13th best show of all time. J-Lo and Shakira comes in at 12. Lady Gaga comes in at 11th in 2017. This one right here hurts me. Michael Jackson started all this stuff, and that show was spectacular. Maybe it was just incredibly big because we'd been listening to bands and those kind of things, and probably had some dogs running around grabbing Frisbees and acts like that for halftime. Michael Jackson comes in at 10. And before I looked this list over, I figured Michael Jackson would be number one. He's not. Scooping on down here, coming in at number 8, Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake, Jessica Simpson, Kid Rock, Nelly, P. Diddy. Coming in at number 8 from 2004. Diana Ross, 1996, comes in at 7. This one's surprising to me after all those other bands, and I'm sure it has to do with some of the other acts, because, and it is, Aerosmith, NSYNC and Britney Spears, Mary J. Blige and Nelly coming at 5 and 5th in 2001. Now, if you think about it, NSYNC and Britney Spears were very, very hot in the 99, 2000, 2001 time frame. I know all this because my daughter was very young, so I was listening to some Bye 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 back in those days. As a matter of fact, took some little teeny boppers to a NSYNC concert once upon a time. I've got that going for me as well. Number 4, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent, Mary J. Blige again. I remember a couple. I think she's been in at least 3. Number 2, Beyonce. I always mess that up. Beyonce and Destiny's Child from 2013. Now, I like this one. Number 2, Madonna from 2012. And number 1 from 2007, Prince. And don't forget, the Florida A&M Band. I think the Florida A&M Band carried Prince during this presentation.
Probably so.
Yeah, I mean, they had more experience. This is like their 3rd or 4th time to be a part of the halftime show. I think that's why he picked them, because they could show him the way.
That's right.
I would doubt that these ratings have very much to do with "Let's Go Crazy" by Prince. And let's see, what Little Red Corvette, that's probably in there too, wasn't it? Hey, the artist formerly known as Prince, and what was that, Purple Rain, some of those things.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, well, I guess that's enough being discouraged and disappointed in this year's halftime show. And right here on Money, Motivation, and Mike, we will tell you as soon as we know who's going to be doing next year's NFL halftime show. On that list of guests you're trying to get, why don't you get the commissioner of the NFL in here, Roger Goodell? Not only we talk to him about halftime shows, we can talk to him about some of the other things, like some of these powder puff games. You breathe on the quarterback, you get a 15-yard flag. We need to talk to him about some of those things as well. Obviously, the game has been dialed in for the offense, and the defense is at a disadvantage, and they're doing the best they can. But as always, Money, Motivation, and Mike, we try to continue to bring you content that is not only today's fashion, but things that you want to hear on a regular basis. You can always contact us, info@mx3.vip, and find all of our content at youtube.com/@mx3.vip. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the icon bell to get notified of all of our new content, which comes out every Monday morning around 9 o'clock. And once again, for all those who have been a part of this show, and congratulations to Prince and the Florida A&M Marching Band for coming in as the best halftime show in the last 58 years of the Super Bowl. Until next time, continue to live your life the right way.